Good morning, my friends. Today we're going to be learning a new set of laws. We have already completed the laws of the reciting of the Shema, and now we move on to the laws of prayer and the priestly blessing. So, the Rambam begins off by telling us that in regards to prayer, this is a very fundamental commandment in the Torah which we do, there is one mitzvah which is to pray to God every single day. And then the mitzvah of the priestly blessing is for the Kohanim, the priests, to bless the Jewish people every day. So this idea of prayer goes as follows. It is a positive commandment in the Torah to pray every single day. As it says in the verse, you shall serve God your Lord. And we learn from this, and there's another verse as well where it says, and serve him with all your heart. We should serve God. And our sages say, what is the service of the heart? That is prayer. In other words, we have to pray every single day. Now, in essence, the idea of prayer does not have a specific text, a specific time, and a specific amount. In other words, we have to pray every day to God, and we have to ask from Him what we need. But there is no detail in regards to the basic of this mitzvah. Now, so since it is a mitzvah that doesn't have a specific time, because it's just every day, so therefore everyone is mandated, so to speak, everyone is supposed to do this mitzvah. Everyone has to pray every day. So that applies to men, women. And the mitzvah is that the commandment is that if a person every day should pray to God and should ask from God for everything that they need. And we should start off by saying God's praise and glory. Then we ask for Him what we need, everything that we might need, and then after that we give thanks to God for what He has given us. Every person according to their ability. So if a person he had a very good language and was able to verbalize everything at length, very eloquently, so that's great. But if a person wasn't able to do it at length, they're able to do it shorter. And in essence, depending also on the person, was if they would pray once a day or they would pray many times a day. Every person according to their standard. And that's the way it was all the way from the time of Moses and the giving of the Torah, all the way till Ezra at the beginning of the Second Temple. What happened in the days of Ezra? Which, as we already have studied yesterday, Ezra was one who came and set things a little bit more specific in the way things should run in Judaism, with the high court back in the Second Temple, when things, as we are seeing over here, the Rambam tells us that when the Jewish people, before the time of Ezra, they were in exile. In the time they were in Persia under the king Nebuchadnezzar, and they were in Greece and in other places. And because of that, so their language was not very sharp. In other words, the Jewish people weren't speaking one language anymore. Back in the day, they were either in Israel and they were speaking Hebrew, or they were living in another country and they spoke that language well. But over here because they were in exile and they were moving along, they were really refugees. So therefore, they didn't really have one single language which they were able to speak properly. So much so that there's a verse in the book of Nehemiah where it says, and their children spoke half in Ashdodit and did not know how to speak the Jewish language. Rather, they would speak according to the language of various other peoples. In other words, they spoke a mix of a few languages. And because of that, when they would come to pray, so they didn't have a language to express themselves properly. And when they came to start praying, so they would say very short, and it wasn't really pronounced very well. And it was mixed with other languages. They would try to say it in Hebrew, but they would be adding on other words from other languages. And when Ezra and the high court at that point saw what was going on, so they decided to institute a set text which would include the basic of what everyone needs in the prayer. And they would put there are 3 first blessings which we say in where we are giving, it's introductory, we're giving praise to God about God's greatness. After that, we ask for everything that we need. And then in the end, we give thanks to God. And that is what is called Shmona Esrei, or the Amida, which are the 18 blessings where we ask from God for what we need. And this was in order so that any person should be able to pray properly, should be able to open a book, read the text, understand what they're saying, and that should be their prayer. Similarly, they also instituted that the amount of times a person prays every day should be corresponding to the daily sacrifices that were brought in the temple. Every day in the temple, there were 2 sacrifices primarily brought in the temple. One in the morning, one in the afternoon. One in the morning on behalf of the entire Jewish people as a morning sacrifice, and one in the afternoon on behalf of the entire Jewish people as a sacrifice in the afternoon. And therefore we pray what is called Shacharit, which is the morning service. And then we have Mincha, which is the afternoon service. And on certain holidays, on certain days where there was an extra, for instance, Shabbat or a holiday, so then there was an additional sacrifice brought on behalf of all the Jewish people, which was called the Musaf offering, which literally means the addition, an additional offering. So then we have an additional prayer on that day. Now, except for morning prayer, afternoon prayer, and an extra prayer on a special day, there is also the evening prayer, which they instituted, in corresponding to the evening limbs of that they had from the leftovers of the sacrifices during the day. They would put it onto the altar at night, and then it would burn there throughout the night. So, therefore, they instituted also that there should be a prayer at night. But the truth is that this evening prayer technically is not mandatory, but all the Jewish people have taken upon themselves as if it is mandatory, as if it is obligatory, and we pray 3 times a day on a basic day. And so too also on a day, they instituted that on a day of a fast, for instance, Yom Kippur. So then there is a special prayer at close to the sunset at the end of the fast, which is called the Ila Prayer. So therefore it comes out as follows. On a regular day we have 3 prayers: morning, afternoon, evening. On a special day, for instance, Shabbat or a holiday or the new month, so then after the morning prayer we add in a special extra small prayer which is called the Musaf service, where we have an extra small prayer. On a day of a fast day, for instance, on Yom Kippur, so then we have also the Ila Prayer, which is towards the end of the day after the afternoon. So we have morning Musaf, the addition, Mincha Ne'ila, the addition for the fast, and then the evening service. So there will be a total of 5 prayers in one day. These prayers, now since it was instituted and it was accepted throughout all the Jewish people across the board, that this is the way that we pray, so therefore we do not add on to the prayers, we do not take away from them, we pray these specific prayers every day. And unless a person wants to add on to them, there is a way that a person is able to add an extra prayer if they want. And that is the same way a person was able to bring a special additional sacrifice if they wanted on their own behalf. So there were sacrifices that were brought up on behalf of the entire Jewish people every day in the temple. But if a person wanted to bring their own sacrifice, they were able to. So similarly, also we're able to bring our own prayer on our own, and a person is able to do that. And if a person wants to even read the Amida, which is the prayer where we ask from God everything that we need, and use that as an extra prayer, they would be able to do that. But however, they have to make a small addition or change in a new concept which they're mentioning and asking for within the middle blessings. So the beginning where we say God's praise, and the end where we give thanks to God, that we're not allowed to change. The coin and the style which they instituted and made is how we have to follow. But the middle blessings where we're asking for our needs, over there we're able to add, if we want to add on something, when we're making this extra blessing, this extra prayer. But a congregation on a whole is not able to add on an extra prayer from the text of the Amida, of the 18 blessings that were instituted, because a congregation wasn't able to add an extra sacrifice in the temple. In other words, there were specific sacrifices. That was what was brought every day, and that was that. But again, of course, obviously, if there is a time of need, or there is a special time when a congregation wants to ask from God, there are obviously ways how to add an extra. But if we're talking about the special blessings of the 18 blessings of the Amida, so that has to be according to the way it was instituted, 3 times a day on a regular weekday, 4 on Shabbat or holidays, 5 on a fast day. That is chapter 1 of the laws of prayer. We're going to be going through fascinating laws over here. Join us along over the next couple days as we go through them. Alright, that is it for today. Have a very good day, my friends.